All right, good morning, everybody. We do have a little bit of data this morning. We had the PCE data come out. It was 0.3% exactly as expected. That's why you're not seeing too much of a move here on ES. The goods trade balance a little bit lower than expected. Personal income exactly as expected, 0.4%. Personal spending 0.5%, exactly as expected again. We had the wholesale inventory 0.2% over 0.1, so a little bit high there. We do have more data coming out at 9:45 and 10 o'clock. Both of these data points after the bell, they're not that high impact. The market doesn't care too much about them, but we will keep an eye on them. Let's take a look at our trade plan from last night. Is it still the same here? Looks like it. So holding above 523, we are looking for 550, 560. That's a pretty old extension level from the last time that we hit all-time high. You could also use like a tail extension if you want to take an extension of yesterday. Pretty much the same level though. Goes to 550. To the downside, holding below 496, we're looking for 470 and 461. That is the value of Tuesday. So right now we have a lowercase b, but we had a P-shaped profile yesterday. So you're kind of just rotating yesterday's profile. So as long as you stay above that, like 500, 496, somewhere around there, you should just be rotating around yesterday's value. So look for that kind of like a 20-point rotation from 500 to 520. We'll keep an eye on that. So I got rid of the overlapping profiles. I'm trying to determine if I want to use like a new one from this impulse here, but I don't really think it's necessary, to be honest. We are bouncing off that POC node around like 492. Got a lot of value there from the last week or so. So like this would be the weekly profile. Was this Monday? Yeah, right here. We're bouncing off the weekly POC, basically. So because we are an inside day, you could respect the P shape of yesterday. Or if we sell right at the open, it could be respecting the lowercase b of today. So we'll keep an eye on that. All right, pretty much the same story for NASDAQ here. We are holding above that 643. We're going to look for that rotation into yesterday's high, which is 793. Then we're going to look for a breakout into 839 and then 088, which is a pretty old extension level. You could take the closer extension if you want to take this tail here. And that would be around 952. Which we will do. We'll go ahead and drop our extended target here, since that one is a lot closer. You do have a lowercase b on today, but you are inside of the prior value. So as long as we respect that value low of yesterday, it should be okay. If you start selling right at the open, that becomes a problem. Probably going to start retesting yesterday's low. Hey, what's going on, man? Yeah, I got a different mic too since the last time you were here, I think. All right, let me post this on YouTube for you guys. Oh, I do that every time. 1 second, let me post it again. There you go, that should work. Okay, failing VWAP right out of the gate here, so keep an eye on that 501 and 673 here. If you stay below VWAP, it is looking a little bit weak. We have that lowercase b today, so like I said, if you sell right away, it could be respecting today's profile. If you hold on to yesterday's value low, then it looks like it's respecting yesterday's. So it's kind of hard to tell right now. We'll have to wait and see. Let's mark out some lows here. A pretty one-directional pre-market, so the fade would be to the upside. Could be like a 5-minute bulldog. Let me see here. Yeah, it's kind of a 5-minute bulldog. You see, there's triple bottoms instead of a double bottom. And then we have a pop-up and then putting in a little bull flag here. If you hold on to that like 97, doesn't look too bad. Yeah, it could be a slow day from the holiday. We've been getting really bad volume in the afternoon. The afternoon has been terrible. You're having that summertime effect in the afternoon. I wasn't able to see the close yesterday. I had to leave. What did it do after 3 o'clock? Let's see. Yeah, it looks like I quite literally missed nothing. It went sideways the whole time. Yeah, pretty much right when I left, it just decided to go sideways, so that's good. Yeah, the pop-up was the it was the PCE data that came out. The data is pretty high impact. So we're just retesting it kind of like how we retest the CPI data. Good morning, everybody. Wanatachi. Let's do this, Jose, Techie, Future, Morris, Lubomir. Good morning, Scott, C-Mac, Lucio, Larry, Trevor, JC, Banana. Good morning, Typhoon, Ordinary, Adam, Axe, Trent, Leo, Devil, James. Good morning, Igor, eBay, 2013, AT. Good morning, Darius, Kevin, Creaso, LDM, Mark. Good morning, Metis. AK, Roman, Boat, Tarnation. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy long weekend, too. We have Monday off, so no stream on Monday. The markets will be closed. I'm not sure what they do on futures. Every holiday is a little bit different. I'm not sure how closed it will be. It might be open for like a few hours. Doesn't matter how much it's open. I typically recommend not trading during holidays, obviously. It holds at 12 o'clock, gotcha, yeah. Yeah, some of them trade for a few hours. Some of them are like completely closed. It's a pain in the ass to keep track of. I wish they would do the same thing every holiday. Appreciate that, Techie. Oh, sorry, let me pin the trade plan for you guys. There you go. There is data at 9:45. This is one of those weird data prints that comes out a few minutes early. So it comes out at like 9:42 and 9:45. They have like an early release. Shouldn't be too high impact. And then the other data coming out is the UOM data, which is not really respected anymore. But if it is far off the mark, it is respected a bit more. So we'll see. All right, this is about where I'd say if it wants to be a bulldog, it cannot go any lower. Good morning, Sean. Yeah, I see that. NVIDIA gapped down a little bit. So NVIDIA was at 180, trading at 177 now. It's outside of our fair value a little bit. A bit of a rollover top on the 30-minute on NVIDIA from yesterday. Kind of putting in lower highs. I was talking about my wick sniper, so like it's outside the bands a little bit, so I would say it's not really a fair price right now. It's a bit extended. Which it's only extended on the 1 minute, I believe, so it's not that big of a deal. And that's mostly from the gap. You're outside the 1 minute band. 5 minute band, you're also outside of. 15 slightly. 30 minutes okay. So the higher time frames, you're okay. Daily obviously has a massive range. So you're basically just outside of it because of the gap. Now, one thing I don't like on NVIDIA is we've had a finding a top on the Momo since May. So way back here, you see when the uptrend started? We've been finding a top, finding a top, finding a top. Now you're kind of rolling over, and the Momo has lost that top. That's the first time you've lost that top since May 8th. So what, about 4 months almost? So that's not a great look. Keep an eye on the 30-minute trail. We are getting some sell signals there, holding us down a little bit. 1 hour is also red. 15 also red, yep. So the middle time frames are pretty red here. At this point, I would say that bulldog is not happening because you're not holding up on that bull flag. You're completely retracing the 830 data, the PCE data. A lot of bearish delta coming in on that retrace. So this starts to look more like a... Let me pull it up here. This is starting to look more like a lowercase b. So on the trade plan, we talked about how it's a P shape if it's respecting yesterday's value. If it's respecting today's value, it's a lowercase b. So if they keep failing that value high, which they currently did, this is trying to push down and retest that lower tail. So not the reaction you wanted to see if you're a buyer on the open. You wanted to hold that P shape. You wanted to hold the value low and then push up. So failing that value high is a clear signal that it wants to respect today's value. Good morning, Joan. Here comes that early release for that data. Keep an eye on this VWAPs here, holding bearishly. We had that early release of the data. The actual release comes out in 1 minute. Yeah, a little bit of data at 10 o'clock as well. Yep. Okay, so here's the actual release, 41.5 or 46.6, so a lot lower than expectations there. A lot of bearish delta today, minus 5,000 already. Minus 6,500 now, block trades coming in. Is that the overnight low? I believe it is. Yeah, overnight low being retested here. So this is the last part of my trade plan that I talked about this morning. I talked about the lowercase b. So if we sell right at the open, it's respecting the lowercase b and not the P shape. So this is that value high of the lowercase b being protected. So now we're going into that lower tail extension, which we are pushing today's low into yesterday's low, basically. We have a little bit more data at 10 o'clock, and that is it for the day. Keep an eye on that overnight low. The exact level is like 89. So if we start buying up back above 89, that is an overnight low sweep. Looks pretty bearish for now, though. Just a last reminder, if you guys haven't sent me any receipts for August, go ahead and send those for the raffle. We're doing our end of the month raffle. There's my email. If you guys bought any Apex accounts using our code in August, just go ahead and send those receipts over. I'll get you guys added. We're going to be pulling those winners probably on Monday. So if you guys buy any on the weekend, just send those over as well. As long as they're in August, you're good to go. We'll be pulling Discord access and cash prize the same as we do every month. Hey, C-Mac, if you sign up for a 250, you can send that one. There's two raffles going on, basically. We have the end of the month raffle that we always do, and then I still have that raffle for the 250K video as well. So you can send that one over. I'll put you in both. Yeah, this will be the last weekend for the 250K video one. Then we'll go back to our normal ones. Just waiting on that 10 o'clock data, then we should be able to trade freely at that point. Little block of sellers there at 86.85. If they stay below this 89 after the 10 o'clock data, then it's probably going to be trending down for most of the day. We'll see. That's that overnight low. It is holding below the aggressive averages right now. Building a pretty decent bearish cluster around 85, 86. That block trade was a little bit preemptive, trading before the news here. But this is pretty much the exact bearish scenario that we talked about. That when you have those like lowercase b's like that going into the open, there's only really two possibilities. You fail the value high and you do exactly, you fail the value high, you do exactly what you're doing right now. You lose the value low, you extend the lower tail. The other one is you basically act like the value high is not even there. And then it has the overnight fade, right? And you go back to the overnight high. So obviously we're doing the first scenario. You failed the value high pretty much immediately and then just nuked. So when you have these days like those lowercase b's and you're opening right on that value high, you just need to pay attention to what's happening on that level. Basically, if you break that level right away at the open, you're pretty much always going to see that overnight high. Because the upper tail is extremely weak. So retracing it is very easy. It's pretty much the same thing for a P shape as well. If you're opening right on that value low, and you lose it right away, very high chance you're going to see that overnight low. It's a shame it hit your targets before you can trade. Yeah, it happened really fast. You really had to make the call like right away. Unfortunately. You like it, Chris? You're like the first person I've seen in chat that likes it. Pretty much everybody in chat complains about it. The wealth charts. I haven't tried it yet, so I don't have a personal opinion. Gold is doing pretty good today. Bitcoin is not. Bitcoin down 3%. How's Ethereum doing? Ethereum is you're like right at that level. You're right on that daily trail. Failing the daily pivot at 4,800. So if Ethereum doesn't bounce this weekend, I probably will close my last chunk on Ethereum. It needs to bounce off that daily trail. Okay, here's that 10 o'clock data. Here is the... sorry, we have a bull div on the Momo, and we have a sweep on that 30-minute as well. Here's that data. Let me see. 58.2 or 58.7, 4.8% on inflation expectations. All right, no change in structure here after the 10 o'clock data is still very bearish. Basically one time framing on the 5-minute, your one time framing on the 30-minute. So breaking into those lows, not testing the highs. Very bearish so far, getting that end of week sell-off. It looks like here's that low of day target of yesterday, that 470 target. Below that, we have 61. 61 was this like low right here. And then it was also the kind of the POC node, the start of the POC node. And then below that, you have 44. NASDAQ, same story, 467 being hit. That's the value low of Tuesday, also the low of day of yesterday being hit. And then below that, we have 337, which is the single prints way back on Friday. It's a pretty nasty sell-off. Hey, Scott, have a good weekend, man. We'll see you on Tuesday. Yeah, that's the problem with vertical distributions. You like know they're going to come to an end, you just don't know when. And unfortunately, it took the entire day yesterday, didn't come to an end, and now it's being retraced today. Yeah, it was a weird vertical distribution. Unfortunately, like I said, it's gonna be like that probably a lot of September. September is just a bad month. I'm always happy to be proved wrong, right? Every year I give you guys this whole spiel in August about how bad September is, and I'm always hoping that September proves me wrong, but it hasn't in the last few years. Very one-directional move here. One of the strongest one-directional moves we've seen probably all week. Have a good weekend, James. We'll see you on Tuesday. There's always some kind of narrative too. Like every year you get to September and there's always like something happening where you're like, oh, this could be different. Like this year it's the rate cuts, right? We're finally getting the rate cuts we've been waiting for forever. So we have that as the narrative of possibly giving us a trendy September. Okay, here's the weekly value low. So we retrace the entire week. There's a really big weekly node at 55. Below that, you could fall pretty quickly. Everyone has to make their withdrawals to pay for their holidays. So we're inside of Tuesday's value here. Keep an eye on that POC around 55. That's that node we talked about earlier. And then the value low would be around 44. Discord is the first link in the description, should be. Pretty strong node today at 65, building a node very quickly. Morning, Crypto. What's going on? Morning, Robert. Who's that again, Crypto? I've heard that name before. I can't put a face to it. Gold is having a really good day. Basically straight up. Hey, Dab, you said you requested my first payout yesterday. Just passed my PA account. Awesome, man. Love to hear that. I just had one of our members, not sure if you're listening. I'm not sure if you want me to say this, but one of our members was the top 3 in the top 3 of Apex payouts last month. He's been a Discord member for 5 years, I believe. So it's awesome to see that they're finally getting payouts. I appreciate that, Dab. You're always the one pressing the button, man. That's the good thing about this channel is you guys can give me props for helping you, but at the end of the day, you guys are pressing the button. You guys are doing the hard work. Yeah, Dab, send me an email. You guys basically have access to it already with the market making bot, but if you want the cleaner one, like just the line instead of like the bands and everything, just send me an email. I can give you access to it. I don't want to say, Chris, the exact dollar number because you can figure out who it is if I say the dollar number. I'll just say it was over 100,000. So it was a pretty chunky payout. I don't know what account size it was. I can ask him. I still need to post stuff like that on the website. I've completely been slacking on updating the website with like member testimonial stuff. Honestly, I'm not doing anything this weekend. I should be able to do it this weekend. I'll set some time aside this weekend and get that done finally. It's really hard to say, Astro, because it's a personal battle, man. It's really different per person. Keep an eye on the 30-minute close. We're about halfway there. We'll create single prints to 75 if it closes down here. Also keep an eye on the POC. POC possibly shifting to 64 at any moment. Yeah, it's probably a fear thing, Chris. You're just trading with fear. Like when you're thinking about that drawdown or you're thinking about losing the account, you're just afraid to take trades. So when you don't think about that, you take trades more logically, mechanically. That's a big problem that a lot of traders have. It's a big problem that I had for a while in my crypto days. POC shifted. There is a very small bull div here. Keep an eye on that 24 EMA and the trail. If it doesn't start waterfalling to the upside, you're just looking pretty bearish. Every single trail is nuking you here. You are getting pretty extended. You're outside the bands on the 15-minute and the 30-minute, so it does need to cool off a little bit. But yeah, one of the things I teach in my tutoring sessions for people that have that problem is if you're constantly finding yourself where you're like afraid to take trades, it's best to have a second account, whether that be a paper account or a prop firm account or whatever. It's best to have like another account where on your main account, if you're constantly afraid and you're just not pressing that button because of XYZ, like there's all these variables that make it a bad trade to you. If you find that you're afraid, you're not taking a lot of trades, just take those trades immediately on the other account so you can isolate those trades. You can isolate all the trades that you were afraid to take on your main account. And if that second account is doing much better than your main account, then you can see that your main problem is you're just afraid to take trades. If your second account is doing terribly, then you have that fear for a reason. You don't want to take those trades because you're finding a problem with those trades, right? They're not good trades. It's not because you're afraid, it's because those trades suck, right? It's your intuition telling you that it's a bad trade. So when you isolate those trades, you'll figure out that fear feeling, if it's a good thing or a bad thing, right? That helped me a lot in crypto back in the day. I would like start to take a trade. I'd be like, I don't really know. It's kind of, it looks bad for XYZ, end up not trading. And then I'd be like, okay, just immediately, don't even think about it. Go to the other account, take the trade, and we'll see how it does. And my second account was outperforming my main account by quite a bit. So it was very obvious that my problem was just being afraid for no reason. So yeah, if you guys have that problem, that's a big thing that I recommend. It will help you guys out. Just isolate those trades that you're afraid to click and see how they're performing. Jim said I always keep an eval open for that exact reason. Yeah, it helps a lot, man. Okay, what we're doing right now is repairing the 30-minute candle. This is one of those early repairs, though. We have 8 minutes left, and it's repairing this candle. So they could be repairing it too early, and then they fall back down and then create those single prints. So keep an eye on that 30-minute close. You got a few minutes left here. I do that with my paper trading account. It's up 22,000, yeah. Yeah, paper trading, I would say if you really don't want to open like another account, like a real money account or a prop account, you can do it with paper trading. The problem is it's almost too much taking away the fear on the paper trading. You know what I mean? You're going from like max fear to absolutely no fear because it's fake money, right? So you want a little bit of that fear still left because you want to manage the risk properly, right? So I would say you're better off on a prop account or possibly a small account with real money. Like it doesn't even have to be the same size. You could be trading like, let's say, one big contract on your main account, and then you have your no fear account with like one micro. The goal of it is just to isolate the trades. The goal's not to like make money. You just want to isolate the trades and see how they're performing. So you don't have to trade the exact same size. Yeah, the single prints will be over here. So it will highlight yellow if there are single prints, which there probably will be in a couple minutes here. Yeah, it's like that old saying, don't let your last trade affect your next trade. Basically, what that saying means is like you're allowing that loss or that fear from that loss to affect your trades going forward. And you need to go into every trade as like its own entity, right? Yeah, so a lot of people prefer the larger accounts for that reason because it seems like a large dollar amount when you see those like $300, $500 moves on the larger accounts, but it's not eating away at your drawdown that much. Like you see $300, $500 on a 50K account, you're like, okay, I need to calm down a little bit. That's eating away at my drawdown quite a bit. But a 250K account, that's not really a big deal. It just helps you get used to those larger numbers and they don't cause as much panic. So here's that really small bull div we talked about hitting the target. This is the trail target. This is also the extension. You are very extended. Needs to cool off a little bit. If it immediately sells the trail here and then nukes downward, it is a very bearish day because you're still extended and it's still finding those aggressive sellers. So we'll see if they nuke the trail here. Okay, so this is doing exactly what we just said. It repaired the 30-minute candle a little bit too early. When you see it do that, if it bounces into that 30-minute repair with like 10 minutes left, like 5 to 8 minutes left, it's usually going to fail that level again. And that second failure pretty much locks in those single prints. So now those single prints are going to be showing from 75. You want that bounce to be timed perfectly with that 30-minute close so that they're trading around that level right when it locks in so you don't create those single prints. So if you bounce like 5 to 10 minutes early, you're pretty much guaranteeing that you're going to have those single prints. Could be a double bottom here. Keep an eye on that. Okay, here are those single prints. It only created a couple, so going up to 75, they had a last minute bounce there. So the actual level is 77, but because I use 2-point TPOs, it will start filling in at 75. Using the 2-point TPOs helps you front run levels, so you're not just looking at like the exact level and you miss it by a tick. Good morning, Argenis. Potential full rotation towards the POC and Val. You mean downward or upward? Do you mean like the retrace here, or do you mean like going back up today? So for the retrace downward, we need to build a couple 30-minute candles below that 70 level. That would start pushing down to 44. The POC is basically the midway target. And then same thing to the upside. Not as clean to the upside because you have kind of a trend profile. So instead of looking for like the value area, you're kind of doing it node by node. So we have like a little node here, we have a node here, and then the value high there. So it'd be like a 3-step process. You're talking about downward? Yeah, downward, you'd have to build more value below 70, then you would target 44. I think you're like pretty much done on NASDAQ. Yeah, you are. NASDAQ's done. So we have retraced Tuesday on NASDAQ. So now the only target below is the single print target going way back to Friday. We never finished filling in those single prints by only a couple. So basically from here to here. So that little zone is what we're looking for. Pretty decent bottom so far, though. You were extended. You needed the bottom a little bit. Yes, you can use volume profile for swing trading. Pretty much the same exact way that I do the trade plans. So the way that I do my morning trade plans and I mark out all these untested value levels and whatnot, that's how you would use it for swing trading. You can also use like the weekly profiles. So kind of like this. You can look at the larger profiles. Bouncing off the weekly value low, by the way. Yeah, volume profile is very effective for swing trading. You can really use volume profile on anything, as long as you have volume, right? Possible bulldog in the VWAP here, which also repairs the single prints. Keep an eye on 78 to 85. Very green tape. Very green large tape. Very green small tape. So this is that extension we talked about. Back into the bands now. So the bands are being respected. Little bit of absorption at 72. A lot of bullish delta coming in there. Not really going anywhere. A single print around 88? Do you mean like from a prior day or something? Gotcha, Deb. Yeah, I should be fully caught up on emails after the stream today. So if you guys sent me emails for the raffles or the indicator access, you guys should be good to go. So you cannot have single prints on the A session. It's impossible. Unless you're using the pre-market. If you're only using the cash profile, you cannot have single prints. The earliest the single prints can be are the ones that we had on the B session. Little bit of absorption here on the high, leading you down. Buyers being stuck. I talked about how green the tapes were. They were very green, but now they're not really being respected. You can see how green the large tape is. Still in that bulldog formation. If you start holding below like 68, I would say that the bulldog has failed. Yeah, Brian, sorry. I have a couple of raffles going on right now, which is a little confusing. It just ended up working out that way. So we made the 250K sizing video, I think it was last week. So I'm doing a raffle specifically for that video. So if you signed up for 250K accounts, you get entered into that raffle. If you sign up for any other accounts, you're in the standard raffle that we do every single month. So every month, at the end of the month, I pull a raffle for Discord access and cash prizes for any accounts. As long as you use the brew code, you're good to go. You can just send any of those receipts to my email. You're in that raffle. So if you guys sign up for 250K accounts, it's a little confusing because you're in both raffles. So if you send me 250Ks, I'll put you in both the raffles simultaneously, basically. And that's just because I made that video last week, so it just kind of overlapped. This will be the last weekend for the 250K raffle, so the confusion will be gone next month. Yeah, Dab, I've tested a lot of different TPOs over the years, and I've just found that the 2-point TPOs are just the cleanest for my style. I like the slower formation of the TPOs. And I also like to front run my value levels by about 2 points, so it helps me front run the levels. Sometimes I front run by like 4 points. It depends on how volatile the day is. I don't really like to be exact on those. But yes, if you're trying to be more exact, you do not want to have the wider TPOs. You want to have the tighter ones. But I like front running, so I like to have them more consolidated. Keep an eye on VWAP. That is the target for the Bulldog. Also, keep an eye on the waterfall. We're starting to waterfall on the trails. So the 1-minute trail has flipped. The 5-minute trail is pretty far from flipping. So just keep an eye on that as a target, which is around 81. It's right in between the VWAPs. You can't really use the CVD divergence right now by itself as a trade. It's just not strong enough right now. I talked about that, I think, earlier this week, about how that used to be one of our strongest signals, and it's not really that strong anymore. The delta is just too confusing, too conflicted recently. Especially going into September, going into all-time highs, the delta gets pretty choppy. So I wouldn't just rely on it by itself to trade. It's just a bonus. If you're already looking for a trade and you have a divergence on delta, it just makes the trade a little bit better. But I wouldn't trade it by itself. Like a year ago, 2 years ago, you could have traded it by itself and you were 100% fine. But not right now. And that's just something that happens in trading. It's called edge decay, right? You're losing your edge on your patterns. Patterns get stronger and weaker, and you're just going to have to go with the flow. You can't answer that question, Linus. There's no set in stone risk reward. That's called trading your P&L, and you don't want to do that. You need to trade the chart, not what you you don't want to try to fit the chart into your R to R. You need to fit your R to R into the chart. So this Bulldog could turn into a bear flag into VWAP. So keep an eye on VWAP as a stopping point for this little reversal here, possibly going back to the lows. You are front running it a little bit. And this is why I talk about the 2-point TPOs right here. This is the exact reason. So the actual single print is 77, but you're stopping at 75, 75. So about a point early. So if you're front running single prints with that 2-point system, you would have gotten out of that trade pretty easily. So it protects you from stuff like this. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not going to go up and fill it in. It probably will. But this hurts a lot of people. You would have just lost 5 points, basically. So those front runs do help. They really like this node here at 73. They keep building that up. A little bit lower. It's like 72. Okay, right now we are kind of a bear flag in the VWAP, and we are failing those single prints after filling them in, obviously. But it's front running it, right? So you unfortunately didn't get VWAP exactly. It's kind of front running here, which is quite aggressive because you're already extended to the downside and you're still front running levels bearishly. That is pretty damn aggressive here. You are riding that wick sniper band on the 15 and 30 minute. You're like right on it. So as always with bear flags, you look for the prior low as your target. The prior low would be kind of this entire zone here. So you're right on the upper portion of that target. The lower portion would be around 60. Yeah, Dab, like I said, it's probably going to get filled in eventually. Like the when they have those little gaps left open, they're almost always filled in. But you got to think about it as a trader. You can't just wait for that to be filled in. Like this would have killed you. So if you had your target here and then it front ran you by 1 point and you were stubborn and you didn't want to take that off, your trade is now a loss. Which is kind of crazy, right? You were up like 10 points and you lost it because of 1 point. So you got to be careful on stuff like that. It happens very often, unfortunately. It just depends on how precise you want to be as a trader, right? I don't really care about precision. I just want to think about everything as a zone and get relatively close to it. Now, it's funny I say that because like one of our sayings here is like damn near to a tick, right? All these levels get tested damn near to a tick. So these levels are pretty widely respected. But it just makes me feel much more comfortable as a trader not having to wait for that exact level. So pretty much since the open, you have not lost this bearish bias. You sold the value high immediately, flipping the P shape into a lowercase b. You started extending that lower tail, and now you've just been nuking pretty much the entire time. Even lowering the POC to the low of day, so pretty rough. Well, there are no signs of reversals today so far. You had a little micro reversal there with the single prints. Right now, you're not really looking for too much. You'd have to have like a very strong absorption. You'd have to have a very strong sweep. Realistically, you're not really looking to be a buyer too much today. The sells are just obliterating the buy side. You can see what I mean here by riding that lower band. That's like the lowest price it should be, and you keep going below it by a few points and then kind of coming back into it. Pretty damn bearish. You can see right here, it was outside the band by quite a bit, popped back into it now. 1 minute riding the band again. Yeah, Bobby, it's because of liquidity. ES is one of the most liquid trading instruments in the world. NASDAQ is not. NASDAQ doesn't have the liquidity that ES has. NASDAQ has pretty good liquidity, but just nowhere near the size of ES. ES is much more heavily traded. What I mean by a strong sweep is like a standard sweep. Obviously, you're just breaking the low, retracing it. But a really good sweep, you have very obvious delta flips, right? You have the trapped traders on one side, and then you're flipping into the other delta right away. So in this case, we would have a lot of trapped sellers, and then once they reclaim that sweep level, you'd be flipping into that bullish delta right away, confirming that those traders are trapped. We don't really have that so far, so. But that's what I mean by like a good sweep. It's being confirmed by delta. This is ATAS, ATAS. I believe they're like the second or third link in the description. And if you check my poll, there are 2 promo codes they're currently doing. I think it's for another couple weeks. I think you have like 1 or 2 weeks left on those promo codes. The first promo code is for the lower tier accounts. The second promo code is for the higher tier accounts. So right now we have a sweep, but we do not have the delta confirmation. So this is kind of a dangerous sweep. This is a bull div on the 5-minute, and you're extended on the bands. So that is helping the sweep. You just don't really have that delta confirmation. You've got a little bit of delta coming in on the buy side here. That's about it. Here's that 24 EMA still pushing us down. Keep an eye on those trails. You are very bearish today, obviously. And notice the waterfall on the OTS. I'll show you here. So when you have that very bearish momentum, this is back when we were extended You had a couple of reasons to go up, like single prints, you were outside the bands, yada yada. So we started bouncing. We had that trail flip very shortly. But if you look at the 5-minute, you knew that you were nowhere near flipping the trail on the 5-minute. Because when this flipped, that was around like right here. You still needed 10 more points just to even get to the trail. Then you would have had to break that by quite a bit to flip it. So there were pretty high chances that this was going to be a trap. So you could have targeted the 5-minute trail as a target, but you're not really looking for that that waterfall. Like you're not going to get that waterfall. You're going to need a significant amount of buy pressure to get that waterfall. And then where was the 15-minute? 15 minutes really far away, back at 89, almost 30 points away. So we are very extended here. Trying to put in a 5-minute bull div here. You're going to get this quite a lot when you're very extended off those trails on the higher time frame. You're going to keep seeing these like micro bull divs on the lower time frames. No, I've never tried them before. The big ones that I've tried over the years, I might miss a few of the smaller ones, but Trade-Evate, Ninja Trader, ExoCharts, Quant Tower. Obviously, Addis, I'm using that right now. Am I forgetting anything? Like, obviously, Thinkorswim, like TOS, I've tried that. I think those are all the big ones. Obviously, TradingView. Still have a bull div here, still have that micro extension. You're kind of extended on the higher time frames. Yeah, trade ideas. I've tried trade ideas. That's not really a charting system, though. I consider them scanners. They're not really for charting. I mean, you can use them for charting, but that's not what they're designed for. I don't mind trade ideas. There's a little bit of a bull div here on NASDAQ, by the way. They just don't like me using them on stream. And I don't use them anymore because I don't do that style of trading anymore. That was back when we were building watch list and trading penny stocks and trading stocks and options very heavily. When you needed scanners. I don't really need scanners anymore. I'm surprised how expensive scanners still are. Yeah, TOS has scanners, yep. They're not at the level of trade ideas, though. Trade ideas probably has the best scanners. Yeah, if you liked my volume profile series, check out my playbook series. That's probably what you're looking for. Now that I've been talking about the OTS and Momo more on stream, I'll probably add a playbook video for like the combos, the pivots, the shading, stuff like that. I also probably need another playbook video on like the VWAP stuff. We've got a couple of VWAP videos on there though. I've been diving into it, loving it. It's very clear. It's funny you say it's very clear because I have a lot of people say, "Oh, where are your entries? Where are your exits?" Like, did you even watch the video? I don't know how to help you. Is it possible to trade using only volume profile and VWAP? Yes, for sure. I think a lot of people do that. That's very popular in the volume profile space. Is like no indicators, just volume profile, VWAP, volume analysis. So we want to see a lot of chop down here because we either need to see a lot of chop or we need to see a strong bounce. Because if it continues to be aggressive to the downside, it's pretty extended. So it's kind of like the vertical distribution, but to the downside, right? Downward accumulation, which we don't see very often. Oh yeah, for sure. If you're just jumping into my content, it goes for pretty much anybody. They're going to be shocked and confused for the most part right away. It's a lot of stuff. People are trying to learn like over 10 years worth of information in the span of like a day or a week, right? That's why I break my videos down in playlists. They're typically small chunks, like 30 minutes each. Try to break that stuff down as much as I can. Keep it on this bullish cluster that it stopped at earlier, around 73. This is that 5-minute bull div we talked about. The 5-minute bull div looking for the trail. Every time there's a bull div or a bear div, whatever time frame is showing that divergence, you target that time frame's trail. So the 5 minutes showing a bull div, the trail target would be around 74. And then from that point, if it starts to hold above the trail, you flip the trail green, that's when it turns into a much larger trade. That's the confirmation that it's going into an actual reversal. But if you can't stay above that trail, it's just a bull div. It's just a bounce, right? If you're talking about volume profile is not really meant to be used on a 1 minute. It's meant to be used on a 30-minute or kind of higher time frames. Now, for the most part, it's about the same. Like if you're, let's say I'm using this profile here, and I'm watching how it responds on the 1 minute, that's okay. But like if you're trying to monitor a 1 minute profile, it doesn't help you too much. Okay, right now we're watching this pullback into VWAP, pullback into the 5-minute trail, which is basically right here. If they stay below the trail, stay below VWAP, this was just a move to not be extended, right? They were repairing that extension, and they're going to go back down. If we can flip this 5-minute trail, it doesn't look too bad. There's actually a 30-minute pivot down here. Oh, and here's that pattern that I was talking about. I don't remember what day it was, but it was one day this week. I was talking about this divergence pattern. So when you have a divergence on the Momo like this, you're almost never going to get a pivot on the second cluster. It's almost always going to be on the first cluster. And it's basically telling you that that first cluster was the proper low. So this pivot was a little bit high. I would have liked that pivot to be like here. So it's a little bit high. But typically it's on the first cluster. It's not going to be on the second cluster, which just kind of confirms that divergence. It's telling you that where that pivot is was the proper low. You can see we're retesting that pivot. Doesn't like it too much. But yeah, we were talking about that pattern sometime this week. 30-minute pivot as well. 50-minute pivot as well. No 1 minute, surprisingly. I actually have a video on that. If you go to my order flow playlist, I have one called, I think it's literally called like 1 minute strategies or something like that. I talk about using the order flow on the 1 minute. This could be a cash rotation going to 82 that lines up with VWAP. Full session rotation, which we're not really watching on a trend day like this. The value area is not as respected on trend days because you have so many nodes. We have like a node here, node here, node here, node here. You can keep an eye on that cash value high because you're more of a lowercase b. Opinion on swing trading crypto? That's personally how I would only do it. I would only swing trade crypto. Day trading crypto is just become too stressful for the most part. I think it's much easier to swing trade. Chris said I take back what I said about wealth charts. It freezes. That's funny. Hey, you liked it for about a day. Good enough. What's our volume down to? That's not too bad. It's probably going to drop like a rock in the afternoon going into the long weekend. Which, by the way, if you guys don't remember, Monday is off. Monday is a holiday. Still holding that absorption. The buyers are being stuck whenever they try to break above 70. All right, so you've cooled off on the 5 minute. You're not outside that lower band anymore, but the 15 and 30 are still pretty extended. So you would need to cool off for probably another hour or so to be safe on that one. If you start pushing down in the next hour, it's going to be a bit extended, so be careful on that. Vez, you're just going to have to look through my videos, man. I've got 10 years worth of content on YouTube, so just go through my playlist and see if you like any of those videos. You're just going to have to take a look around. It's a pretty stacked shop. Yeah, we'll see, Planet. Hopefully the volume doesn't fall off too much after the London close. We've been nuking recently. It didn't take me too long to go full-time trading, but like I said, I don't talk about that story too much because I don't recommend it. And I pretty much dropped everything. I dropped out of college. I quit my job. I dropped everything to trade and just had really good timing. I got into the really big bull market of crypto back in like 2016 to 2018. Then we had the really good market in COVID after that. I've had a lot of really good trading opportunities right after I went full time, so it kind of all worked out for me. But yeah, it only took me a couple of years. But like I said, I don't talk about that too much because it's not 100% me. It's a little bit of luck, a little bit of good timing. Yeah, exactly. I did all the things you're not supposed to do. Exactly. Which is why I don't really recommend that. I was in school for finance. I pretty much have my finance degree. I'm like 3 classes or like 4 classes away, I think. I have like I don't even remember. I think it was like less than 12 or 15 credits or something like that. I think I had like 1 or 2 semesters left. I honestly can't remember at this point. But yeah, I was going for finance. I have a degree in business admin, but I was getting a degree in finance. And my job was completely unrelated. I was selling HVAC. I believe we'll get a good bull run in crypto. We're in a bull run in crypto. I think the bull run is coming to an end. Crypto trades in a 2 to 3 year cycle. At its highest, sometimes a 4-year cycle. And we're at the end of that cycle. So we're at the end of the cycle where it turns into a bear cycle. So if it did continue, which I talked about this earlier this week, I do think that it could have one more push. It could have one more push on Bitcoin and Ethereum, because typically when it tops out, it's very obvious, it's very violent. and I don't think we've seen that violent top. So we could have one more move, but if it had more than one move, I'd be questioning that. Like, if we go into another bull cycle without having a bear cycle, that would be very unusual. But yeah, we are at the top of the bull cycle for the most part, so if you're not already in, it's kind of a little late. You gotta wait for the next cycle. I don't watch altcoins anymore, so I can't really help you in that regard. I don't really know how they trade recently. I only watch like Bitcoin, Ethereum, sometimes Solana. My biggest chunk that I'm holding right now is Ethereum, which I'm very close to selling. I've already gotten out of pretty much all of my Bitcoin. We have a little piece left. I always keep a little bit just in case. I don't sell everything 100%. But yeah, most of my chunks on Bitcoin are gone. I got a pretty big chunk on Ethereum left. And that's pretty much it. Like I said, the bull cycle's almost over. At least I think so. I first started trading in like penny stocks. Like penny stocks, I was paper trading a lot. Then moved on to futures and crypto. Penny stocks are fun. I always like going back to penny stocks. They've got good they're very technical for the most part. Like their moves are really clean. Well, I say that they're extremely volatile and risky, but as far as like technical patterns go, their patterns are pretty clean. There's pretty much only one pattern you need when you're trading penny stocks. It's like the bull flag. There's a bunch of different variations of the bull flag, but that's pretty much what you're looking for. You're looking for a big surge in volume, delta, price. You're looking for that small pullback, and then the secondary surge again. And that's pretty much the only pattern you need. Like I said, if that PDT rule does finally get taken away, we'll do another small account challenge later this year. They're supposed to be voting on that in the next quarter. I think penny stocks will explode if they get rid of that PDT rule. No change in structure here. Staying below VWAP, staying below the trails. The 1 minute trail is flipping, but you're mainly watching the 5 minute trail here. 5 minute trail was your bull div target, which is stalling out, possibly going lower here. This is exactly what you wanted to see. You want to see these inside candles because these inside candles correct that extension. So you were too extended to the downside. Now we have these inside bars, which is letting those bands catch up. Yeah, the PDT rule just makes no sense. It's a brain dead rule. Trying to limit how much people can trade when they don't limit it on like any other market. Yeah, I think if the PDT rule comes off, it's going to be very good for brokers like Robinhood, Webull, stuff like that. It's going to be very good for penny stock trading, like retail trading. Are you trying to sign in like right away future? You might have to wait a little bit. Sometimes if you try to do it like instantly, it doesn't work. Other than that, I would just double check the login details, and that's all I can help you with. You'd have to go to support after that. Keep an eye on those 30-minute lows if we start breaking out of this accumulation. Possibly going for that those single prints below that the trade plan targets. 5 minutes ago, yeah, you probably just gotta wait a little bit. Sometimes you have to wait. But all right, guys, we're gonna call it here. I'll give you guys a little bit of time off for the long weekend. I appreciate you guys being here. I will be streaming the rest of the day in Discord. If you guys are not in Discord, like I said, enjoy your long weekend. We will not be streaming on Monday. It is a holiday. I will be back same time as always on Tuesday. This is your last reminder for the August raffle. If you sign up for any accounts in August, especially the 250s, the 250Ks, using our code, be sure to send those to my email. We are doing 2 raffles right now, so it's a little bit confusing. We are doing the 250K raffle for that video that we put out last week, and we're also doing the end of the month raffle. So be sure to send me any of those accounts. Just put raffle in the subject line. I'll get you guys added. I don't respond to every email, but I will be responding to the winners. So if you guys do win the raffle, I will be pulling that on Monday. So keep an eye on your emails on Monday, possibly Tuesday, because of the holiday. And yeah, that's all I got. Hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. I'll be caught up on emails after the stream. So if you guys sent me any emails about getting access to the indicators, look out for that. You'll see access in probably the next 2 hours. And that's all I got. I appreciate you guys being here. Enjoy your long weekend. I'll see you in Discord. If you're not there, I'll see you on Tuesday. Peace, everybody.